let's look at the dual D. That's due diligence. What exactly is due diligence? That word is such a beautiful word. It means a whole lot of things depending on the sector that you are applying due diligence to. I can remember the years I spent with the National Human Rights Commission. We carried out a lot of human rights due diligence on bills, on legislations. There were several legislations before they passed at the National Assembly. We would have to make our input to ensure that those laws have the spirit, the value systems of human rights entrenched into them in a way that it sees into the future to protect the rights of citizens of Nigeria. We did basically all of that, and that was very beautiful. I remember occasions where we had to even make presentations in the National Assembly with the senators and the honorable members there present in those committee rooms or in those public hearings. And we did all of those beautiful things in the interest of our country, in the interest of Nigeria. And that still goes on even up till now. So much of the time, when you see that another bill has been passed by the National Assembly, for example, it tells you that those laws, to a very large extent, already have the spirit of human rights within them to a very large extent. So that system already happens within the lawmaking process in Nigeria. And I strongly feel that is also continuing. So now I just want to talk about due diligence within human rights. What is due diligence? When somebody says human rights due diligence, what exactly are they talking about? That's a very, very broad spectrum. But firstly, I would want us to start with even definitions. So according to the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, the UNGPs, due diligence is a process aimed at identifying, preventing, and mitigating the impact of businesses on human rights. I don't know if that makes sense. The impact of businesses on human rights. Peradventure, for example, maybe you live in an agrarian society, you live in an agrarian community, and you have a company come into that community that wants to delve into maybe mining for gold or for lithium, for example. They would be carrying out those activities on land. And much of the time, the land that these companies would be mining may be owned by chiefs, may be owned by families, may be owned by communities. What due diligence is basically talking about is, what is the impact of the business's activities on the human rights of the people that live within that particular community? That is all that human rights due diligence is really about. So when we hear keywords like identifying, preventing, and mitigating, when you look at preventing, if it's possible, you might be able to prevent. At other times, what you might have to do may be to mitigate. When you now talk of mitigating, then that also means that there might be certain things that the community might be able to give the companies might be able to give to the communities for them to at least have that working relationship, that working business relationship, so that the business can still do business and the community doesn't necessarily take, the hard end of that particular transaction at the end of the day. So that's actually very key. Another thing that we might need to also consider is when you talk about corporate due diligence, what exactly do you understand by corporate due diligence? What exactly? So I will just quickly read something short on that. Yeah, so corporate due diligence, it gives companies the ability to be proactive in taking certain actions to prevent and mitigate human rights risk. So that is now on the company. What has a company done on its own? Does the company have access to human rights consultants that can look into the risk factors that companies may overlook, not because they want to, but because they necessarily do not know? So it's very key, it's very important that companies, when you take on large projects and you want to do things that may have the semblance of, that may have a negative impact on your reputation in line with the activities that you are carrying out for your business, it's very important that you engage professionals, human rights professionals that can carry out a proper due diligence so that you can know where the risks lie. You can be able to prevent those risks. You can also mitigate those risks, or better yet, you can totally be very proactive about prevention. So that's also very key. That's also very important. And this is a new area, especially within the global south, is not something that is so well spoken about when you're looking at how Europe has, Europe has embraced much of all these concepts. We want to keep talking about it so that companies can begin to respond positively to issues around human rights due diligence. That's very key. Before you open that mine site, before you open your oil rig, before you begin to even think of having to set up your oil platform, before you begin to think of going into a community for agricultural purposes and you want to clear out maybe 500 hectares of land, for example, before you do those things on a massive scale that can impact on the livelihoods or the lives and the livelihoods of persons within that particular community, you must understand that you would have to carry out a human rights due diligence to protect you and also to ensure that individuals living within those communities have the best possible opportunities to be able to adapt to the changes that that company is going to be bringing. And at the same time, where there are benefits, they can also take advantage of those benefits. So I'll definitely see you on the next video. Yeah, cheers. Bye.